Uh, Hollywood legacies do not end at the final curtain call, and the paperwork actors leave behind often shapes how families, charities, and archives preserve their names. These last wills and testaments show how estates handle image rights, memorabilia, royalties, and trusts for children. Many of these plans include detailed instructions for executors and foundations. Others reveal what happens when there's no will at all, and state law decides the outcome. And here are the key takeaways from well-known cases. Robin Williams, his estate plan placed most assets in trusts that scheduled distributions for his children at specific ages. He set clear rules for how his image could be used and restricted commercial exploitation for a set period after his death. His widow received rights connected to their home and certain personal items. Disagreements over memorabilia were resolved through settlement instructions that kept core collections intact. That it would be mentioned, his will left the entire estate to his daughter through a trust structure. He named an adult family member to serve as guardian of the trust assets until his daughter reached legal age. The plan centralized control with a single executor to avoid conflicts among relatives. Real estate and royalties followed the same trust pathway for long-term management. James Gandolfini, he signed a traditional will that divided property among family members and friends. Significant gifts were made outright rather than placed in trusts for tax planning. An Italian property was addressed separately to ensure local compliance pre-muscle. The document named multiple executors to handle international assets and related filings. Seymour Hoffman, he directed that his partner receive the residue of the estate and that funds for children pass through trusts. The language encouraged his children to be raised in a major American city to promote cultural exposure. He avoided creating broad lifetime trusts that might reduce their incentive to work. The will coordinated with separate guardianship nominations for minor children. Heath Ledger, his will predated the birth of his daughter and did not initially include her by name. Family statements indicated that the child would be provided for. Despite the older document, executors consolidated royalties and residuals into a single management account. Personal effects such as notebooks and awards were handled under a memorandum outside the main will or prevention from the GPA. Burt Reynolds, he referenced an existing trust for his son and therefore omitted him from the will on purpose. The will directed most remaining assets to his spouse and coordinated with prenuptial terms, a pour-over clause, moved any stray property into the living trust at death. Collectibles and scripts were subject to right of first refusal by the trust. Kirk Douglas, most of his wealth flowed to charitable causes through the family foundation. The will and foundation charter identified grant-making priorities such as education and health. Family members received specific personal items and keepsakes, and the executors were instructed to sell non-mission aligned assets and add proceeds to the foundation. Um, Jerry Lewis. He used explicit disinheritance language for several children from a prior marriage. The residue went to his spouse and an adopted child through trust arrangements. The executor received authority to settle royalty streams from performances and tours. The will required an inventory of memorabilia before any sale or donation. Mickey Rooney, he had a modest estate at the time of death and named a trusted caregiver as primary beneficiary. The will revoked earlier instruments and limited distributions to others. Elder abuse concerns prompted the executor to pursue claims on behalf of the estate. Personal awards and photographs were directed to museums and archives. Tony Curtis, he executed an updated will that left most assets to his spouse and excluded adult children. The document cited that prior gifts and planning had been made for them. Executors were authorized to manage likeness and autograph licensing. Real property was earmarked for sale with proceeds paid to a marital trust. Marlon Brando, his estate plan combined a will with multiple trusts holding royalties and real property. A house and its contents were addressed in a separate schedule with caretaker provisions. Executors manage rights of publicity and negotiated licensing of his image with several claims by former employees were handled under the will's dispute procedures. John Wayne, he placed film residuals and trademark rights under a trust that supports family and charitable activity. The plan allowed licensed use of his name for approved causes. Children received stage distributions tied to age and education milestones. The will directed the maintenance of personal archives for research and exhibitions. Alan Rickman, he left the majority of his estate to his spouse and remembered several charities with specific bequests. And the will appointed professional executors to manage intellectual property. Residual income from performances was pooled and divided according to 6 shares. Personal letters and rehearsal materials were restricted from sale for a period in mail. Gene Wilder, he provided for his spouse and created instructions for the stewardship of writings and memorabilia The will requested sensitivity around his medical history in public exhibits. Executors were told to favor donations to institutions connected to cancer support. The residuals from screen work were assigned to a family trust. Chadwick Boseman, he died without a will, and his estate proceeded through intestacy in probate court. The court appointed a family member to act as administrator of assets and debts. Distributions followed state law with priority to the surviving spouse. More royalties and residuals were gathered and accounted for under judicial supervision. Peter Falk, his will left the bulk of property to his spouse and set limits on access for extended relatives. A prior guardianship case influenced who could make medical and financial decisions. The document granted the executor control of likeness, licensing, and costume items. The charitable donations were authorized at the executor's discretion. Christopher Reeve. Estate documents created support for his spouse and children through trusts, and the plan coordinated private insurance benefits with trust funding. Intellectual property from books and speeches was centralized to one manager. Advocacy-related donations were encouraged under a discretionary clause. Patrick Swayze, his estate plan provided for a spouse and addressed ranch and personal property. The will included instructions for private handling of medical records. Executors were given authority to conclude royalty agreements for home media. Memorabilia could be donated to selected museums before any sale. James Dean, he died without a will, and state law transferred his estate to his closest heir. Control of his image and signature later became a significant asset. The administrator licensed publicity rights for merchandise and photo use. Income from these licenses funded taxes and beneficiary distributions. Bruce Lee. It will be directed assets to his spouse with provisions for his children through trust mechanisms. And the estate consolidated image rights and training materials under a single entity. Executors worked to standardize licensing agreements worldwide. Personal manuscripts and photographs were cataloged for preservation. Steve McQueen, his plan left property to his children and made arrangements for certain charitable gifts. Executors managed the sale of surplus items to avoid storage costs. Royalties from films were designated for the family trust. Charles Bronson, he provided for his spouse with a marital trust and set aside shares for children. Healthcare directives were cross-referenced with the will to avoid conflict. The executor received instructions to resolve mineral and residual income interests. Personal effects from film sets were divided by written list. So that was a master. Similar, Peter Sellers, his estate passed largely to his spouse under the terms of his will, with children receiving smaller shares. Residuals and repeat fees were administered by professional trustees. And then the document allowed consolidation of accounts to simplify reporting research that memorabilia was subject to appraisal before any distribution. Bela Lugosi, his will placed limited assets with family members, while ongoing publicity rights became central later. Disputes over posthumous image licensing shaped how the estate operated. Successors managed stage and film photographs to maintain brand integrity. Court rulings influenced how future estates handle celebrity likeness. Paul Newman, his final plan relied on a network of trusts with a focus on charitable work. They will poured remaining assets into these trusts and set governance standards sources. Executors received clear conflict of interest rules and reporting duties. Licensing connected to his name in food and racing, supported philanthropy. Sean Connery, his will coordinated with a family trust to manage royalties, residuals, and image rights. The executors were instructed to consolidate international accounts for reporting and tax filings. Real estate outside the United States was handled with separate local counsel. Memorabilia and scripts were subject to appraisal before any distribution to beneficiaries. Memorabilia and scripts everywhere. Roger Moore, he relied on a combination of a will and longstanding trusts to provide for his spouse and children. The plan centralized control of likeness, licensing through professional trustees. Charitable gifts linked to medical causes were authorized from the residue. Personal awards and costumes were cataloged with select items designated for institutional donations. Sidney Poitier, his estate plan directed support for his spouse and children with defined trust shares. Literary and photographic rights were grouped under a single manager for licensing. The executors had authority to negotiate documentary and educational uses of his image. Any disputed personal effects were to be resolved through a written memorandum outside the will. Charlton Heston, the will integrated with healthcare directives and a living trust. To avoid probate delays, executors received powers to manage residuals from screen and commercial work. Firearms, historical props, and related items required special inventory and secure storage before transfer. A portion of assets was eligible for charitable grants, consistent with prior given. Orson Welles, his estate documents addressed unfinished projects and the control of unpublished materials. The will authorized agreements with archives to preserve scripts, notes, and recordings. Executors were empowered to settle competing claims from collaborators. C, proceeding royalties from reissues and restorations were placed under a dedicated management account. But he structured bequests for family alongside provisions for professional executors. Residuals and repeat fees were pooled and divided by set percentages. The plan encouraged preservation of correspondence and rehearsal materials with restricted access periods. Real property sales were permitted to fund trust obligations and expenses. Richard Burton, his will specified distributions to family and coordinated with earlier marital agreements. The executors had discretion to license recordings, stage readings, and archival releases. Personal libraries and annotated scripts were to be inventoried before any sale. Currency and accounts in multiple countries were consolidated to a principal estate account. Lawrence Olivier, he employed a trust-based framework to manage royalties and literary rights. The will permitted negotiated loans of costumes, photos, and recordings to museums. Executors were required to issue periodic reports covering licensing, income, and expenses. Specific keepsakes were listed for direct transfer to family members. Alec Guinness, his plan assigned professional trustees to oversee intellectual property and performance residuals. The will encouraged educational use of archives under standardized loan terms. Executors could digitize materials to preserve fragile originals and expand access. Bequests to family were supplemented by a modest charitable set aside. Christopher Lee, he left instructions for the administration of film residuals, music royalties, and publishing rights. The will allowed the executor to coordinate releases with studios and labels. Personal effects from sets required appraisal and a written chain of custody. The international tax filings were to be prepared by designated advisors named in the document. Peter Cushing, his estate plan directed that notebooks, photographs, and correspondence be preserved with curatorial guidance. Residuals were allocated to family through a fixed share arrangement. The executors could decline low quality licensing requests to protect brand integrity. Sale of duplicate memorabilia was permitted to reduce storage costs. Gregory Peck, he used a marital trust and generation-focused provisions to support descendants. That executors were empowered to manage ongoing guild residuals and pension benefits. In list of awards and honors included handling instructions for display or donation master. the plan required annual accounting for beneficiaries receiving trust income. That follows Brenner, that Yul Brynner, his will coordinated stage, film, and photographic rights under one licensing authority. The executors were instructed to standardize contracts for touring exhibits and retrospectives. Family received scheduled trust distributions tied to age milestones. Certain personal costumes and props were tagged for archival placement before any sale. Leslie Nielsen. He maintained a living trust with pour-over provisions to capture remaining assets through the will. Residual income streams were consolidated for efficient payment and reporting that probably executors had discretion to approve documentary use of behind-the-scenes materials, personal comedic props and scripts were inventoried and then distributed per written lists. Oliver Reed, his plan provided for family while designating professional management of international royalties. The will authorized resolution of outstanding production advances and appearance fees. Right. Executors could license image and voice, uses subject to quality controls. Real estate liquidations were permitted to fund debts, taxes, and trust allocations. Share your thoughts on which of these estate plans surprised you the most in the comments. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button for more fascinating stories. Ever wondered what happens to a Hollywood legend's fortune after the lights dim? It's not just about fading fame, but twists in wills and trusts that keep the legacy alive. Take Robin Williams, the comedian genius who laced his plan with clever trusts for kids. Distributions kicked in at set ages, guarding his image from overuse and settling disputes over treasures gracefully. Paul Walker's will shone a spotlight on his daughter tucked safely in a trust. Family dieted the assets until she blossomed, smoothing out any sibling ripples with one strong executor. James Gandolfini played it straightforward, dividing wealth among kin with outright gifts. He minded his Italian villa separately, teaming up multiple executors for global adventures. Seymour Hoffman's heart lay in trusts for his young ones, urging urban roots. No pampering here, just careful guardianship plans to nurture independence. Heath Ledger's old will missed his baby at first, but family vowed care. Executors pooled residuals, keeping mementos like notebooks in a special memo. Burt Reynolds trusted old setups for his son, leaving the rest to his wife. A sneaky clause swept extras into trusts, and collectibles got first dibs for those collections. That Kirk Douglas poured millions into foundation feeling good causes. Family grabbed keepsakes while extras sold to keep the mission flowing. Jerry Lewis cut ties bluntly, with some kids trusting the rest to wife and adoptee uh, executors sorted royalties, demanding an inventory of memorabilia first. Mickey Rooney's modest home, a favorite, a caretaker, dodging elder troubles with claims, awards whispered to museums, honoring his legacy. Tony Curtis forbade adult kids from the updated will, citing past provisions. Executors hawked properties managing autograph cash in a marital trust. Marlon Brando blended wills with trusts for royalties, house and rights, danced with caretakers, fending off employee grumbles through dispute rules. John Wayne trusted his trademarks to family and causes. Um, Staged kid gifts aligned with milestones, archiving films for future admirers. Alan Rickman graced his wife with most dotting charities generously. Pros handled IP, restricting personal letters from the market. Gene Wilder shielded his spouse, guiding medical history gently. Cancer causes claimed residuals, echoing his caring role. Chadwick Boseman skipped a will, letting courts ditty intangibles. Surviving loved ones claimed priority under state guides. Peter Falk capped access for distant kin. Guardianship shaped choices. Licensing costumes with charity nods. Or that Christopher Reeve weaved trusts for kin, blending insurance, that he really, one manager ruled IP from speeches and books, that Patrick Swayze handed ranch to wife medical records, private executors wrapped royalties, donating memorabilia selectively. James Dean's intestacy crowned family, image rights, filming, administering licenses that we think, and well, those sound paid bills and shares, the Century paid and paid. Bruce Lee entrusted wife and trusts for kids, because they understand they are those natures. Steve McQueen gifted to kids and charities in vehicles starred in schedules, films, royalties, joining trust feasts. Charles Bronson built a marital trust, sharing with children. Mining and residuals resolved neatly. Props listed for fair splits. Peter Sellers willed mostly to wife, kids, lesser. Pros pooled fees, appraising memorabilia for even hand. Bela Lugosi's slim assets grew via image battles. Court pales influenced future celebrity rights handling. Paul Newman arched trust toward charity. Name in food and racing, financed philanthropy. Free of conflicts. Sean Connery trusted for royalties. And we said, we said, well, these are some finishing that really dead. These are so interesting, major. Roger Moore trusted kin long, licensing through pros. Costumes headed to museums, medical charities gifted from residuals. Sidney Poitier trusts, backed family, one manager for rights, memos settling, disputed items. Charlton Heston linked to Living Trust sham. Residuals managed firearms inventoried securely. Charity slices continued. Orson Welles' unfinished Edge Entrusted archives saw executors settled claims. Royalties reissued under managements. Peter O'Toole pooled with pros. Percentages divided, correspondences preserved, restrictedly, properties liquid for funds. Richard Burton guided family licensing recordings. Inventories for libraries, accounts united globally. Laurent Olivier trusted royalties. Museums loaned items. Reports on income, steady keepsakes direct to kin. Alec Guinness assigned pros for IP and educational loans, digitized, modest charity alongside family bequests. Christopher Lee directed residuals. Appraisals for sets, advisors for tax worldwide. Peter Cushing preserved notebooks and mean by seeing the upper. Fixed chairs for family, declining sleazy deals. Duplicates sold cheaply. Gregory Peck trusts spanned generations. Residuals and pensions managed. Awards displayed or donated. Accounting, annual. Yulbrenner unified rights. Contracts for exhibits. Trust time for kids. Props archived. Leslie Nielsen poured to trust. Income streams pooled. Back in entries approved. Props listed for laughs. Oliver Reed pros managed. Royalties, advances resolved, image license selectively, estates liquidated for debts. As we wrap these Hollywood twists, remember, wills can be as unpredictable as a plot twist, making probate feel like a sequel no one saw coming. Pun intended on estate planning. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button for more fascinating stories. Ever wondered what happens to a Hollywood legend's fortune after the lights dim? It's not just about fading fame, but twists in wills and trusts that keep the legacy alive. Sounds similar. Robin Williams, the comedian genius, who laced his plan with clever trusts for kids. Distributions kicked in at set ages, guarding his image from overuse and settling disputes over treasures gracefully. Paul Walker's will shone a spotlight on his daughter, tucked safely in a trust. So, and family guided the assets until she blossomed, smoothing out any sibling ripples with one strong executor. James Gandolfini played it straightforward, dividing wealth among kin with outright gifts. He minded his Italian villas separately, teaming up multiple executors for global adventures. Philip Seymour Hoffman's heart lay in trusts for his young ones, urging urban roots. No pampering here, just careful guardianship plans to nurture independence. Heath Ledger's old. Will missed his baby at first, but family vowed care. Executors pooled residuals, keeping mementos like notebooks in a special memo. Burt Reynolds trusted old setups for his son, leaving the rest to his wife. A sneaky clause swept extras into trusts, and collectibles got first dibs for those collections. Kirk Douglas poured millions into a foundation fueling good causes. Family grabbed keepsakes while extras sold to keep the mission flowing. Jerry Lewis cut ties bluntly with some kids, trusting the rest to wife and adoptee. Executors sorted royalties, demanding an inventory of memorabilia first. Mickey Rooney's modest home favored a caretaker, dodging elder troubles with claims. Awards whispered to museums, honoring his legacy. Tony Curtis forbade adult kids from the updated will, citing, past provisions. Executors hawked properties. Executors hawked properties, managing autographed cash in a marital trust. And Marlon Brando blended wills with trusts for royalties. House and rights danced with caretakers, fending off employee grumbles through dispute rules. John Wayne trusted his trademarks to family and causes. Staged kid gifts aligned with milestones, archiving films for future admirers. Alan Rickman graced his wife with most, dotting charities generously. Pros handled IP, restricting personal letters from the market for meetings. Gene Wilder shielded his spouse, guiding medical history gently. Cancer causes claimed residuals, echoing his caring role. Chadwick Boseman skipped a will, letting courts divvy intangibles. Surviving loved ones claimed priority under state guides. Peter Falk capped access for distant kin. And guardianship shaped choices, licensing costumes with charity nods. Christopher Reeve weaved trusts for kin, blending insurance and formally telling. One manager ruled IP from speeches and books for Patrick Swayze handed ranch to wife medical records, private AC Act, executors wrapped royalties, donating memorabilia selectively. James Dean's intestacy crowned family image rights, booming, administering licenses, paid bills and shares. Bruce Lee entrusted wife and trusts for kids. Executors unified global image deals, preserving manuscripts. Steve McQueen gifted to kids and charities Vehicles starred in schedules, films, royalties, joining trust feasts. Charles Bronson built a marital trust, sharing with children, smooth. And then reported mining and residuals resolved neatly. Props listed for fair splits. Peter Sellers willed mostly to wife, kids lesser. Pros pooled fees, appraising memorabilia for even hand. Bela Lugosi's slim assets grew via image battles. Court tales influenced future celebrity rights handling. Paul Newman arched trusts toward charity, name in food, and racing financed philanthropy, free of conflicts. And Sean Connery trusted for royalties. Advisors unified accounts, appraising memorabilia across countries, a system. Roger Moore trusted Ken Long, licensing through pros. Costumes headed to museums, medical charities, gifted from residuals. Sidney Poitier trusts backed family, one manager for rights, the most settling disputed items. Charlton Heston went to Living Trust Sham. Residuals managed. Firearms inventoried securely. Charity slices continued. Orson Welles unfinished. Edge entrusted archives. Executors settled claims. Royalties reissued under managements. Peter O'Toole pooled with pros. Percentages divided. Correspondences preserved restrictedly. Properties liquid for funds. Richard Burton guided family licensing recordings, inventories for libraries, accounts united globally. Laurence Olivier trusted royalties. Museums loaned items, reports on income steady. Keepsakes direct to reports on kin. Alec Guinness assigned pros for IP, educational loans, digitized modest charity alongside family bequests. Christopher Lee directed residuals, appraisals for sets, advisors for tax worldwide. Peter Cushing preserved notebooks, fixed shares for family, declining sleazy deals, duplicates sold cheaply. Gregory Peck trusts span generations. Residuals and pensions managed, awards displayed or donated. Accounting annual or Yulbrenner unified rights. Contracts for exhibits, trusts timed for kids, props archived. Leslie Nielsen poured to trust. Income streams pooled, documentaries approved, props listed for laughs. Oliver Reed pros managed royalties. Every single advances resolved, image licensed selectively, estates liquidated for debts. As we wrap these Hollywood twists, remember, wills can be as unpredictable as a plot twist, making probate feel like a sequel no one saw coming. Pun intended on estate planning. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time,